In a crowded boxing gym, Jack Lightning Wilson pointed at the gray-haired veteran across from him. "Old man, you really think military combat experience means anything against a pro like me?" Thomas's calm eyes flashed with dangerous intensity. Jack Lightning Wilson wasn't just another champion boxer. At 28, he dominated the national heavyweight scene with 3 consecutive titles and a perfect knockout record. His Instagram boasted 3.7 million followers who devoured his daily posts showcasing lavish training facilities, designer clothes, and supermodel girlfriends. "Another day, another challenger destroyed," Jack captioned his latest video, which showed him demolishing a muscular MMA fighter in less than 2 minutes. His new social media series, Pros vs. Pretenders, had doubled his following in just 3 months. Jack's manager, Dwayne Collins, checked the analytics on his phone. 6 million views already. The network called again about that reality show contract. Jack shadowboxed in front of the gym mirrors, his movements lightning fast despite his imposing frame. What's next? These challenges are getting boring. Dwayne scrolled through his phone. How about something patriotic? Veterans Day is coming up. His eyes lit up. Military versus professional. The audience would eat that up. Jack grinned. Perfect. Find me some old soldier who thinks combat training means anything in the ring. Make sure he looks the part. The older and more decorated, the better. Across town, Thomas Clark wiped sweat from his weathered face as he guided a young veteran through breathing exercises. The community center's small gym wasn't impressive, but it served its purpose. 5 years since his retirement from Special Forces, Thomas had volunteered here 3 days a week, helping fellow veterans battle PTSD through physical training. Focus on your breathing, Marcus. Center yourself, Thomas instructed quietly. At 58, his body bore the marks of 25 years of service, scars from Baghdad, Kandahar, and classified missions that would never appear in any public record. His gray hair was still cut military short, his posture ramrod straight despite the shrapnel permanently embedded near his spine. Director Collins from the Veterans Center approached hesitantly. "Thomas, there's an interesting opportunity. A professional boxer wants to do a friendly sparring match with a veteran for publicity. They're offering a $10,000 donation to the center." Thomas frowned. "I'm not interested in being anyone's publicity stunt." "They specifically asked for someone with combat experience," Collins pressed. "Think of what we could do with that donation. New equipment, expanded PTSD programs." 3 days later, Thomas stood uncomfortably under bright lights as cameras circled. The friendly exhibition Jack's team had described was nothing like what they'd promised. Instead of respectful dialogue about military service, Jack had spent the first 15 minutes demonstrating flashy combinations while mockingly comparing them to outdated military techniques. "This is real fighting," Jack announced to the cameras, executing a perfect combo on a punching bag. "Not the prehistoric stuff they teach soldiers." He turned to Thomas with a condescending smile. "No offense, Gramps." Thomas remained silent, his eyes taking in everything. Jack's stance, his breathing patterns, the way he favored his right side slightly. 25 years of combat experience had taught him patience. The cameras loved Jack's showmanship, but Thomas noticed something else. Beneath the bravado, the young champion had never faced someone who fought without rules, someone who had survived where second place meant death. The producer stepped forward. "Great energy. Now let's get some interaction between you two. Jack, why don't you show Thomas a basic combination?" Jack approached Thomas, cameras following. "Let's see if you can even follow a simple 1-2, old-timer. Try to keep up. Stand like this." Jack demonstrated a textbook boxing stance, cameras capturing every angle. "See, military training teaches all wrong. Square shoulders make you an easy target." Thomas maintained his silence, watching as Jack performed for the crowd. The young boxer threw elaborate combinations at the air, each punctuated with a dismissive comment about military combatives. "This is why soldiers would get destroyed in real fights," Jack announced. They train for outdated scenarios with clunky movements. He gestured toward Thomas. Go ahead, show us some of that military stuff they taught you. Thomas shook his head. I'm not here to perform. Jack's smile hardened. See what I mean? All talk, no action. Military training is more about marching in straight lines than actual fighting. The producer signaled for a cut, then approached Thomas. We need more interaction. The viewers want to see something from you. This isn't what was described to me, Thomas replied quietly. This feels disrespectful to veterans. Look, the producer lowered his voice. Just play along. The center gets its donation, Jack gets his content, everybody wins. As filming resumed, Jack's team positioned both men for a face-off. Jack's assistant handed him his phone, showing newly edited footage. Thomas watched as clips of his awkward stance were juxtaposed against Jack's fluid movements, complete with laughing emojis and mocking captions. Already got 50,000 likes, Jack grinned, turning the screen toward the cameras. The fans love seeing the difference between a professional and, whatever you call that military style. Behind the cameras, a group of younger veterans who trained with Thomas had arrived to support him. Their expressions darkened as they witnessed the mockery. That evening, the heavily edited video exploded online. Comments flooded in. Disrespectful to our troops. United States. That old man deserves better. Lightning Wilson crossed the line this time. By morning, a military journalist had posted a lengthy thread about Thomas Clark's actual background. The old man being mocked is former Sergeant Major Thomas Clark, who served as hand-to-hand combat instructor for multiple Special Forces units. He personally developed close-quarters battle techniques adopted by 3 allied nations. #Respect our veterans. The post included a redacted military photo of a younger Thomas training elite soldiers, his face serious as he demonstrated a complex takedown. Jack's publicist burst into his training session, phone in hand. We've got a problem. That veteran you're mocking? He's basically the military's version of John Wick. Jack toweled off his face, unconcerned. So what? Military training is still outdated compared to professional boxing. Social media is turning against us. Veterans groups are calling for boycotts of your sponsors. Jack paused, then smiled. Perfect. Let's lean into this. Challenge him to a real round, not just a demonstration. 3 minutes in the ring with me. That'll settle it. He shadowboxed a quick combination. I'll take him down in 30 seconds, military hero or not. The challenge went viral immediately. Sports networks picked up the story, professional champion versus Special Forces legend. What began as a promotional stunt had transformed into a genuine debate. Could elite military combat training stand up against professional boxing? Thomas declined all interview requests. His only public statement was brief. Actions speak louder than words. The day of the confrontation arrived. Jack's private training facility had been transformed for the event, with limited media and spectators. Veterans lined one side of the room, the boxing community the other. Thomas arrived wearing simple workout clothes, no entourage, no fanfare. Jack was already warming up in the ring, his team surrounding him like a fortress. Remember, Jack's trainer advised, he's old and slow. Keep your distance, use your reach advantage. This isn't a real match. Just make him look outclassed. Thomas stretched quietly in the corner, his movements deliberate and economical. A few former military colleagues approached, offering support. Don't let his showboating get to you, one whispered. Thomas nodded. It won't. The announcer called both men to the center. Jack bounced energetically, fresh and confident in custom gloves emblazoned with lightning bolts. 3 minutes, exhibition rules, the referee explained. Clean fight, gentlemen. Jack smirked at Thomas. Still time to back out, old man. I'd hate to send you to the hospital. Thomas simply nodded, his eyes never leaving Jack's. The bell rang. Jack immediately unleashed a textbook combination, his movements fluid and practiced. Thomas's stance seemed awkward in comparison. Not quite boxing, not fully military. He absorbed a jab to the shoulder, stepping back clumsily. "See that?" Jack called to the crowd, landing another quick strike. This is the difference between a professional and an amateur. For 30 seconds, Jack controlled the exchange completely. Thomas seemed a step behind, his blocks late, his footwork uncertain. The boxing enthusiasts nodded knowingly at each other. The veterans watched in silence. Jack landed a particularly flashy combination, then stepped back with a flourish. He turned toward his supporters with arms raised, playing to the crowd while beckoning Thomas to try again. "Come on, Sergeant Major," he taunted, his back partially turned to Thomas. "Show me some of that Special Forces magic." In that moment of theatrical overconfidence, everything changed. Thomas's entire demeanor transformed in an instant. His awkward stance shifted to something predatory and efficient. His eyes, previously passive, now locked onto Jack with the focused intensity of a combat veteran who had faced life-or-death situations. Before anyone fully registered the change, Thomas moved. Not with the choreographed rhythm of boxing, but with the brutal efficiency of battlefield survival. 3 steps closed the distance. Jack turned back, smile still playing on his lips, just in time to see Thomas's advance. The boxer instinctively threw a defensive jab, textbook perfect. Thomas didn't block, he redirected, his weathered hand capturing Jack's wrist mid-extension. A subtle shift of weight, a controlled twist of the captured arm, and suddenly Jack's perfect balance vanished. The champion staggered, his free hand flailing as Thomas executed a simple joint manipulation that sent shockwaves of pain through the younger man's nervous system. "What the?" Jack gasped, finding himself controlled by pressure points he didn't know existed. In one fluid motion, Thomas swept Jack's supporting leg. The boxing champion crashed to the mat, Thomas maintaining control of the arm in a submission hold that required minimal strength but delivered maximum control. 15 seconds. The entire sequence had taken 15 seconds. The room fell silent. Jack's team froze mid-cheer. The veterans exchanged knowing glances. "Tap out," Thomas said quietly. "This isn't about hurting you." Jack, face flushed with shock and embarrassment, tapped the mat. Thomas immediately released him and stepped back, offering a hand to help the boxer up. Jack hesitated, then accepted it. "What? What was that?" "Reality," Thomas replied, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent gym. "Boxing is a sport with rules, referees, and rounds. Combat is about survival, speed, and adaptability." Thomas turned to face the cameras directly for the first time. Competitive fighting is impressive and requires tremendous skill. "I respect it deeply." He gestured to Jack. "This young man is a legitimate champion." Then his expression hardened slightly. "But combat is different. We don't train to win medals or get sponsors. We train so our friends come home alive." Jack rubbed his wrist, humility replacing arrogance. "I didn't understand the difference." "Few do," Thomas acknowledged. "That's why bridging that gap matters." 1 month later, Jack stepped into the Veterans Center, not as a celebrity visitor but as a volunteer. The spacious new training area, funded by his substantial donation, buzzed with activity as veterans of various ages worked through modified boxing exercises. "Your footwork is improving," Thomas told a young female veteran struggling with balance issues from a combat injury. "Thanks to the champ's drills," she replied, nodding toward Jack, who was patiently demonstrating adapted techniques to accommodate physical limitations. Later, as they cleaned equipment, Jack gestured around the renovated facility. "This program is going better than I expected." Thomas nodded. "Boxing builds confidence. These veterans needed that. And I needed the lesson in respect," Jack admitted. "My social media team wants to document what we're doing here, if you're comfortable with it. Not as a stunt, but to help other veterans." Thomas considered this. As long as it's about them, not us. Jack extended his hand. Agreed. Real strength isn't about who can hit hardest. Thomas clasped it firmly. It's about who can lift others up when they need it most. The veterans working around them, some with visible injuries, others with invisible scars, were the living proof of what true power looked like. Not in championships or followers, but in resilience, community, and the courage to begin again. This confrontation reveals a truth beyond the ring. Real strength comes in many forms. While professional athletes master their discipline through countless hours of practice, combat veterans develop instincts forged in life-or-death situations. Perhaps true wisdom lies in recognizing the value in both worlds. What skills do you think are most important in unexpected confrontations? Has someone ever underestimated you based on appearances? Or have you misjudged others only to be surprised by their hidden abilities? Veterans deserve our respect not just for their service, but for the unique perspective they bring to civilian life. Their stories remind us that humility often accompanies genuine strength. Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story resonated with you, help us honor more veterans by subscribing and sharing. What other matchups would you like to see explored in future episodes?